Well, it is so thrilling to see all of these people coming into the six screens tonight. Thank you for wanting to spend some time with us on a Saturday night. Well, my name's Rick Farron, and I'm here at the Six Screens control panel right up here in the hub of the universe, otherwise known as the apostate capital of the world. And I say that with full credibility. I am not kidding you. You can all remember, I'm not going to go into it, but last year, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025, the Still Alive in 2025 ex Jehovah's Witness convention was, you can look it up on AI, it'll tell you. It's saying that that was the largest ex Jehovah's Witness gathering ever in the history of the ex Jehovah's Witness movement. So we take that in a prideful way, right? Why wouldn't we? I mean, it was so nice to meet all these people coming up here last August and chumming with them and talking with them and encouragement. And it was a real great time for all of us and all those that came up to the convention. Thank you for doing that. We're still waiting on the movie. We're still waiting on the movie. Evidently, they are really waiting till they get a big promotion going or something. I have been in touch with them, and they're still trying to get this into a position where there's going to be a wide audience that views this movie because it was a movie filmed at the convention, as everyone remembers. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight. Well, what's going on in your world? I had a lot happen this week. I'll go a little bit into it. Last week when I came on here, I could hardly talk. I was coughing and choking and hacking. You people probably remember it. And we stayed on for a couple hours, and man, I would tell you, I was really in rough shape. I'll tell you seriously. And so consequently, I was coughing like crazy. It was driving me nuts. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and hacking and coughing and get up. I'd sit in a chair because I couldn't lay down. And so I was awake most of the night. But, excuse me, still a little cough going on here. But to give you an idea, my wife, Susan, she loves me dearly. I love her. And she kept saying to me, Rick, go to the hospital. And I'm saying, Susan, it'll go away. It's just a little cough. I'm taking cough medicine. I'm taking Sudafed. So she said, it'll go away. And it kind of did there for a couple of days, but it still was very annoying. Cough, cough, cough. So I was up by the walk-in clinic up here in Massachusetts, Tewksbury, where I live. So I went into the walk-in clinic, and I hate going, excuse me, to the walk-in clinic. But I went in because, excuse me one second. Let me just take a glass of water here. I'm really good. I feel good tonight. I'm not hurting. There's no pain. It's just a pain in the neck cough. So I went into the walk-in clinic, but I think you guys all realize these walk-in clinics are nothing but a springboard to the hospital. I hate going because many times in a walk-in clinic, they might not have the right staff. They might not have the right doctors. So they don't want to touch your stuff with a 10-foot pole. So they'll springboard you up to the local hospital. And let me tell you, I was there last week. Well, actually a week and a half ago with my wife. I took her up. And we were in the emergency room in Lowell, Massachusetts. And by the way, Massachusetts has the longest wait times for emergency hospital visits. So we were there for 8 hours trying to get Susan in and get some work done on her. So I did not want to go up to the hospital, but I wanted to get this cough straightened out. So anyway, she came back and they took an x-ray and they said that what I had was a bronchitis. But, it wasn't severe, but she gave me some medicine for the bronchitis, and it seems to be getting better. Still a little scratchy around certain areas, but a lot better than last. I'm glad Susan. She's listening in there. I wasn't sure she was, but she heard me. I guess I'm glad I went, Susan. Thank you. Yep. Because I don't know if I would have been able to do the program tonight, and that would have been the first one. That would have been the first time in 20 years that we missed a program where we couldn't do that. But I'll tell you what, the pressure gets on you. When you're running a streak like that, and all of you can't be sick. You can't, you can't have any big events in life that can stop you from having the program. I mean, I'm not crazy obsessed about it, but when you have something running that long, you hate to give in. You want to keep rolling. So, anyways, but I'm good tonight. I'm good tonight. I'm ready to roll, and I'm so happy to have so many good friends because I know you're all wishing me well and all that. But I'm good. I wasn't dying or anything. I told that to Susan, and but from now on, I'm thinking, you're better off going to the walk-in clinic if you have any problems. But I mean, don't go there for nothing. But if you're having an issue, go see the walk-in clinic. All right. So that's one thing that happened. That's one thing that happened last week, but that's over. That's done. That's water under the bridge. Now the second thing is, I got to tell you, I didn't want the Jehovah's Witnesses. I would never tell when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I would never tell them I got a traffic ticket. I would never say that to the elders. Pick up on that. They're going to be all over you like a cheap suit. But back in November, they changed the speed limits in the city that I have my business in. And they changed the speed limits. Every street you travel down, unless it's posted, is 25 miles an hour. So right when they changed the laws, I wasn't even aware of it. So I'm coming down the street, and lo and behold, there's a police officer. He pulls me over. This is back in November 17th. So he pulls me over. He says, "Sir, do you know why I'm stopping you?" And, I wasn't on my phone. It's against the law in Massachusetts to be on your phone. I wasn't on that. I wasn't, maybe I thought my taillight was out. I even thought of that. I was wearing my seatbelt. And they can't stop you for not wearing a seatbelt unless you're already stopped for another offense. But I wasn't doing any of this. So he says, "Do you know why you stopped?" I says, "Well, I'm not sure." He says, "But would it be speeding?" Even though I wasn't. Was that speeding? So he says, "Yep, I got you speeding." I says, "Officer, I was not speeding." But, he was pretty adamant about it. So I thought he was just going to give me a warning. So he gives me a ticket. So, okay, take the ticket. But, on the ticket, on the citation, it says estimate. So I'm saying, well, wait a minute. How can someone estimate a person's speed? I mean, can you do that? Can you stand on the side of the road and say, "Oh, that person is going 41. That person is going 47. I mean, it's impossible. So I said, I'm going to fight this. So I had to pay $25. I paid $25 to the state of Massachusetts and put it in for an appeal. Excuse me. So consequently, what happened is it came up 4 months to get into the court system. So I walked in the court system the other day, but I felt very confident. I'm going to win this. There's no way I was speeding. If I was speeding, friends, I would have paid the ticket and forgot about it. No contest, but I wasn't. So anyways, I went into traffic court, a bunch of people there. And it got me thinking even about the elders and the Jehovah's Witnesses, that there was a young girl. Well, I say young, she's probably 30 years old. And the poor girl was so distraught. And, she's trying to keep it all, without really exploding in her. I said, "Well, what happened to you?" Everyone's talking about their tickets and what have you. So the girl said that her brother died and she got a call from the funeral home. And, what do? Your brother died. And I guess it just happened a week or so ago. And so anyways, whether he's still in the funeral home or not, I'm not quite sure. He might have already been buried, but the funeral home called her. So she grabbed on the telephone. She saw the funeral home, Drake Funeral Home. So she grabbed the phone, and the cop, right when she grabbed it, was right next to her in a cruiser. So he pulled her over and gave her a ticket. And the poor girl was just so upset. And I said, "Well, you tell that to the magistrate, and he's going to let you go." I mean, but I'm thinking now, wait a minute. The court systems and the government lately, they really get on you. I mean, they go after your jugular vein, just like the elders in the Watchtower. But I'm thinking, you got to cut this poor girl some slack here. I don't know what happened with her, but anyways, I thought it was a good alibi. It's not even a real alibi. It's a great defense, really. But with me, they call me, and Farron, get in here. So I go into the magistrate, and there's a hearing. So he said, "Well, tell me what happened." So I told him, I said, Your Honor, I'll tell you right now, if I was speeding, I would have paid this ticket in a heartbeat. No questions. I wouldn't even be here. I'd accept it. I'm a grown man. I'm 78 years old. Been driving for like 63 years. So he looked at me. He says, "You weren't speeding?" I says, "No." I says, "Even the ticket." I says, "Even the ticket says estimate." I says, "What's? How can someone estimate someone's speed?" He says, "Well, they put that on there, but he probably had a radar gun too of some type." I says, "Yeah, but," I said, that gun wasn't working right. I'll guarantee you that. That couldn't have been." So he says, "Okay." He says, "There's not enough information. I'm letting you go." So I was so happy for that. But I'll tell you, at least he had some mercy. And I'm listening to some of these stories tonight about people having encounters with the Watchtower. There's no mercy at all shown. At least this judge had a little mercy. I'll let you go. I mean, look at the stories Dick was telling tonight, and Joe D'Addario. Do these elders have mercy on people? Absolutely not. So that's what happened this week. So we're back in the seat here tonight, behind the curtains of the Watchtower, and talking about what's going on. And well, let's take a look and see what is going on. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed at things that are happening in the Watchtower. These guys are really in free fall. They are on life support right now. And before we get into the news, I just wanted to make one other comment here, at least a statement. And I love everyone that calls into our program. It really amazes me. It thrills me. It inspires me. It really gets my adrenaline flowing. And but here's the thing. I got thinking today, and even tonight, I'm watching the control panel here. I'm watching the computer screen from people calling in from all over the world. And I see it's not now. Think about it. All of you folks who listen into the six screens, it's kind of a unique format. I mean, this is where ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come to talk, and it's done in real time. It's not a YouTube video that you watch, a few hours later, a few days later. This is all in real time. And there are people right now listening in that are really hurting. A lot of these people are new. Think of yourself when you first called in here. You really, this is a wonderful thing. I mean, I would have thought that. I would have loved to hear from all of these people calling in. That would have really settled my nerves. So there's a lot of people that really would like to speak up. Now, what I see here that you don't see, I am looking at a computer screen right over here. And on that screen, it's filled up with numbers. And sometimes it looks like the ticker tape at the Wall Street. It's going a million miles an hour. And these are people coming and going. And what I notice as of late, that there's a lot of people that call in and they'll stay on for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and then they lose the courage. They look at you. Had a hard time too calling in at first, right? And I would have too. I would have said, well, I'm going to test the waters a little bit. I'm going to see how this is done. So, we got to give these people credit. So what I'm going to do, this is not in any way telling you folks out there, the constant callers, and I love that too, to have you guys speak up and talk. But if I see someone trying to sneak in here tonight for a short time, I'm going to call them out. I'm going to have to put you on the back burner. And don't be offended by that, but I'm going to put you right on the back burner. Hold on, we got a caller coming in from Toronto or from wherever they're coming in from. And I'm going to put them on first so we can hear them, because these guys, you can lose courage very, very quick. I mean, if you're going into battle and you get that little rush, you got to do it, because if that rush disappears, you drop off. That's what happens here at the six screens on our telephone line. By the way, folks, we're really the only ones. I mean, I'm not taking it in a boastful way at all, but we started this whole idea of people talking together. We started off with just a telephone line. Of course, now it's YouTube and Facebook, and now there's others too that do it. And it's very good. It's very good what they're doing. I appreciate it and I applaud them, but they don't do it the way we do it. They don't do it with the telephone line. They do it through the StreamYard and bringing people on video, and that's okay too. But this idea of the telephone line really creates a mystique. You never know who's calling in next. And it really does. It creates kind of a mystique, because you never know. It could be, hey, one of these nights, maybe we'll get a governing body member call in. Who knows? So I just wanted to bring that up. So I'm going to say, I'm going to be watching this board like a hawk. And if I see somebody trying to sneak in here for the first time, I'm going to hold on. We got someone coming in, so don't take it offensively, and we'll get back to you, and you can finish your thought. But we got to move to these new ones because there's only such the window only opens so wide, and then it closes very quick. So keep that in mind. Thank you for understanding that.
For you last week, we had a good chat. Everybody did.
Where was that? The after party?
Yeah, when you shut down, we kept it rolling.
I know you did. Well, thank you, Pixie. Yeah, in fact, it kept going there for about 2 or 3 hours. Then I got up. I just couldn't go on. I was getting pooped and I couldn't talk. I'm saying, man, I gotta do something. But I'm glad I left it on, and I want to thank all those 2 that came on. Thank you, Pixie.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Did you see the John Legare had the story there about the member of Parliament? It's the second time he spoke in Parliament, and he was a witness until he was 13.
Right. We're going to be talking about that on here tonight. Yeah, Pixie. Yeah, so you hang in. We'll talk about it and then get your thoughts on it. Yeah. All right. So anyways, but we'll just start off. We'll talk about what's coming up here. It's the biggest event of the year for the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's the most important meeting of the year. And everyone knows what it is, right? It's the memorial, the 2026 memorial of Jesus' death, supposedly observed by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, this year it's going to be on Thursday night, April 2nd, 2026, a couple of weeks away. And, just reviewing, there's a lot of things, Jehovah's Witnesses, that are really pulling on people to scare them half to death. I mean, with all the stuff that's going on in Iran, with all of the issues that you're dealing with, geopolitical and oil and prices and inflation and a weakened economy and job loss. There's a lot going on right now, friends. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they take advantage of all this. They thrive. Jehovah's Witnesses thrive in negativity, in bad news. So they're going to elaborate. They want to get you to the memorial. Hey, there's a war going on. Jehovah's going to step in soon. The world is out of control. You're going to hear this. And this year, bigger than ever. I mean, every year I say that, but I'm not kidding. This year, it's really big. The witnesses are really promoting Armageddon. Now, what they're bringing up, and I've brought this up before because there's one Watchtower article that they use that I think is very unfair, and I think it's dangerous. I do. And that article, well, it goes back to 1972. Now, they don't use this article all the time to scare people to come to the memorial. But from what I understand this year, they're doing it again. They want to get as many people to the memorial because I want to tell you something. That memorial is a real gauge. Now, I know that Jehovah's Witnesses cook the numbers anyways. They're not real. But you can't have a memorial where a lot of people do not show up. That is going to put mud on your face. So the Jehovah's Witness organization, they got to go all out, especially this year with all the turmoil going on with the nations and the sex abuse crimes and everything else. The witnesses have got to get people, no matter who they are, where they are, what they're doing, they got to get them to the memorial one way or the other. So they're going out there. They're bringing up, from what I understand, this article in the 1972 Watchtower. Now, that's going back a while. My goodness, that's over 50 years. But, they're resurrecting some of these old passages from ancient watchtowers that they're trying to convince people that they still have to follow. Now, just listen to this. I'm not going to read it. Well, I'll read it verbatim right here anyways. It says here in the 1972, on March 15th, page 167, anyone deliberately staying away from this celebration, from the memorial, from the biggest event in the Jehovah's Witness religion all year long, anyone staying away from this celebration does well to consider this question. If willful disregard of ancient Passover was punishable by death, would not a more severe punishment be meted out to one who spurns the Lord's evening meal, or one who doesn't come? Now, what's more punishable than death? How explicit, how over the top can a Watchtower be by telling people if you don't come to the memorial, it's worse than being punished by death? What's worse than death? Jeez, I'll tell you, this Watchtower, you really need these guys like a hole in the head. Well, without everything else going on, maybe you're a witness guy. You got a family. You got to work on Thursday night. You're trying to pay the rent. You're behind on your car payments. You got insurance. You got your phone bill coming up. But if you don't come to the memorial, Brother Zealous, if you don't come to the memorial, maybe you call him Brother Weakness, right? If you don't come to the memorial, Brother Weakness, it's worse. It's worse than being punished by death. Well, the question I'd ask, well, what's worse than being punished by death? I mean, is there another punishment in the Watchtower? But this is what they do. And they're saying it's so bad if you miss the memorial and you let the wine and bread go by. Well, you let it go by anyways. So I'll tell you, friends, I thank God that Satan kicked me out of his organization. I couldn't take it anymore. I really, really couldn't. So surely they're saying to the people that they're going to, you got to accept this invitation and you got to come. And notice even in the invitation this year, it's whack-a-mole to me. It always has been. So you're just being invited not to come and take the wine and the bread, not to take and drink it and eat it as normal Christians do, but you're being invited to come to a event where the celebration for you're just a spectator. You're what they would call a respectful observer. Now, there's no such biblical historical record of a respectful observer at the Last Supper. That these people are all faithful disciples of Jesus. So this idea of you have to be present, it's that important. You could probably die if you don't come. For a spectator, just come by and watch what's going on. Is that foolish or what? How, in goodness name's sakes, did we ever allow this type of baloney to fill our heads? I wonder about it. So I wanted to bring that up tonight. So April 2nd is the memorial, and we'll see what type of attendance they had. Now, last year they had 23 million, I believe it was. 23 million. They're going to do everything. They're going to cook the books. But see, they can't, some things you just can't lie about. You can probably lie about a lot of other things in the Watchtower. They can lie about all the baptisms that took place around the world. They can lie about how the kingdom halls are growing. Nobody's really able to put any real tabs on this. But the memorial, people can put a tab on it. People can put it, especially with all the ex-witnesses now that are out and taking notice of what's going on at Kingdom Halls. So if they come back and say, we had the largest attendance ever for the memorial, we had 25 million people. Well, let's hear what the ex-witnesses have to say that drive by Kingdom Halls on Memorial Night. Let's see how they spin it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I am now to the point, what do you believe these days? I certainly don't believe the Watchtower. I mean, if you do believe the Watchtower, you got to stop and think about it. They're not telling you the truth about everything. All right, so let's move on here. Another thought that came up to mind is, I got thinking of the Watchtower magazines, and I couldn't really even understand back in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s how this massive publishing house could produce all this literature. And back then, I mean, they were going full throttle. Boy, they had, 2 editions of the Awake magazine monthly. They had Watchtower every week. Practically, they were printing one hour. Even before the study edition, we used to get about 3 or 4 copies of the Watchtower every month. Publications like you couldn't believe. You go to the assembly, it wasn't in conventions. It just wasn't one book. It was sometimes 3, 4 books and tapes and everything else they were. But that's all gone. That's all gone. So I'm thinking, if I was still a PME witness, physically and mentally ill, I like that better. That's a little Freudian slip there. Physically in, mentally insane, I should say. But anyways, why would you donate? Why would you donate? I used to think back then, well, gee, the Watchtower is a big publishing house. It's in fact, I'll tell you what, it's been said now. It's been said, but it's not because I checked it. The witnesses used to kind of imply that they were the largest religious publishing house in the world. Well, that's a misnomer. They were big and they did a lot of publications. I will give them that. But the Catholic Church, it has a bigger publishing house than the witnesses. But okay, back to the thought. Why would you want to continue to donate to the Watchtower Society? They have cut back drastically on their publications. Hardly any new books are being released. The Awake magazine and the Watchtower magazine, now not the public edition, I'm sorry, not the private edition or the study edition, but the public editions of the Awake and the public editions of the Watchtower. These are old magazines they're reproducing. They're not even coming up with new stuff for the people. They're just reproducing older magazines, and that's what the witnesses are using at the cart, or if they're going out in the door-to-door work. So I had to think, if I was really a witness, a lawyer witness, I'm saying, where's this money going? Who am I giving this money to? As a matter of fact, they're using all these magazines and rewriting them, but not really, word for word. I mean, yeah, they're just reprinting them. Go with that. And they're using these old magazines, some going all the way back to 2018. So why does the Watchtower still need money if they're not really producing new literature? Did you think about that? I mean, for years we were known as a publishing company. For years we were called publishers. They don't refer to the witnesses today as publishers as much as they used to, but still considered publishers to some degree. But they don't even publish much stuff anymore. So where's the money going? Look, you guys know where the money is going. It's going to child sex abuse lawsuits. That's where the money's going. And it's also this Ramapo and these investments in real estate, as the Watchtower tells us. And then I'll tell you what, there's a significant percentage of congregations in North America and in Europe. These are congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses that are losing money. The basic operating cost of a Kingdom Hall, you got the insurance, you got snow cleaning, clearing, you got, cleaning the grass up in the summer and mowing it, you get garbage collection, you got heat, you got electricity, you got cleaning supplies, and they're not getting the donations like they were. So what they're doing, I'm just thinking out loud here. Don't say Rick said this and this is exactly what you got to believe, because you don't. But I'm just trying to put two and together in my head. I'm trying to come up with, how are they getting the money? Aren't people realizing I'm not getting magazines? What am I really getting from this organization? So this is why I believe that it will go down in history as one of the biggest scams ever in the history of religion. And I'm beginning to really become very suspect of what's going on up there in Ramapo. I really, really am. I think the witnesses are using that project as a stepping stone for donations. I believe what they're doing there is trying to get you to believe in this big, giant move. Now, they're going ahead with it to some degree, but they're trying to get you really to believe that this is a monumental, exciting project that the Jehovah's Witness organization is undergoing right now. But they're trying to give the impression that Jehovah's chariots on the move, that we are moving forward, everything is wonderful. That's a bunch of baloney. And then these are reasons, when you come out and you say, you say to the rank and file that we need money for the Ramapo project. Well, the witnesses start digging in their pockets, right, to give the money. It's a great way to raise money. How else would they do it? They can't say, well, we're publishing a lot of magazines, we're publishing new books, we need help, we need money, we need paper, we need ink. They're not saying that. They're not saying that. They're telling you to donate to Ramapo. And this is really it's starting to really shape up here, at least in my mind. Something is wrong in Ramapo. Something is wrong in Ramapo. And see what they do, they got to keep the PMEs, the loyal Jehovah's Witnesses, that they have to keep their minds focused on making progress. I mean, do you want to belong to an organization that's making no progress? Well, you did quit, right? I mean, if you were a salesperson working for a company and the guy says, your manager says, go out and sell this widget, and you go out and nobody buys it, goes on and on and on. Do you still want to be part of that? So they have to make it look like there's progress. Excuse me. They got to make it look like they're still growing. So when you come up with this scheme of Ramapo, doesn't it look like when they're talking about spending $500 million, upwards of $500 million, and we're building this giant movie mega studio? Doesn't that really give the impression that, wow, what an amazing organization? Well, that's what some of the PMEs are thinking, right? So every few months now, and I've been noticing this too, every few months, what they do is they roll out another video on jw.org. And the video usually about some sisters wearing hard hats and driving dumpster trucks and holding a screw gun, right? It's sisters doing this. So, look at the sisters. They're working so hard to build our new studio. And then the witnesses dig into their pockets every time they put one of these videos up. So once this whole Ramapo is completed, if it ever is completed, then what? What are they going to do? How are they going to be getting the donations in? Because the donations now, in my way of thinking, are coming because of the Ramapo donations. We need money. We need money. Well, that's how the churches do it. That's how these scam artist churches do it. So that just brings to mind, but what do they need the donations for? All right, so they're getting donations coming in on Ramapo, but they need donations for what just happened up there in Norway. Well, you had a lawyer, Anders Risdell. He's one of the best lawyers in all of Norway. Now, he's not even a Jehovah's Witness. So they hired him at $600 an hour to go into the court, the Supreme Court of Norway, and work as a defense lawyer for the Watchtower and explain to Norway why Norway should not cut them off from funding. They make $1.5 million a year from funding in Norway. So this Risdale guy went in and lied through his teeth. They need the money to pay a guy like this. I mean, okay, $600 an hour. Goodness only knows how many hours, but it has to go more than that. When you get a guy this good, I mean, you got one of the top lawyers in the whole state. It comes with a lot of amenities. It comes with a lot of accoutrements, you could say. It's just not the $600. There's more there. So you got, and then another thing too, in a 2023, and we mentioned this, I believe, on the Six Screens a few years back. In 2023, the governing body approved the purchase. Now get a load of this. The governing body approved in 2023 the purchase of a $2.5 million video wall for for virtual production. I'm not sure where that was. They have a studio in I believe it's Ireland as well, and Australia. It was either Australia or America, but the governing body, and it was public, was in their publication. Actually, $2.5 million for an virtual production. Oh, okay. Well, you're gonna need that. I mean, but maybe $2.5 million isn't a lot to the Watchtower, but they need the money. They still have Bethelites. They have Bethelites around the world. You got to feed them. You got to house them. You got to give them transportation. So it's really, the Watchtower is starting to feel, I'm not going to tell you they're financially strained. I'd be crazy for saying that. They're a multi-billion-dollar organization, but you can lose billions and millions pretty fast. So what I'm thinking here And I'm not the only guy thinking this. It was brought up earlier on Dick's program and Connie, but a man by the name of Sam Carling. Well, he has a big voice in at least the UK. As a matter of fact, he's a well, what he is in the UK. Now, he's an ex Jehovah's Witness man, and what Sam Carling is he's like the United States House of Representatives, like Congress. He's like a congressman in the UK, and all of a sudden we got the UK at least looking at the potential, I suppose, of putting a watchtower under the microscope. But there's some issues with that. We'll get into in a second. But hey, it's good to have a guy like Sam Carling being an ex-witness and actually being a pretty high official in the system of United Kingdom in their parliament. So basically, what he's saying here is he's mentioned it before. We brought him up a few years ago, and we learned about him being, a prominent ex-witness, now a prominent person in the UK Parliament. But let's just consider what he's thinking here. They give the United Kingdom gives the Jehovah's Witness money too, like Norway. So he's considering putting this ex Jehovah's Witness community together, and he's trying to get the countries in Europe, at least the UK, to be aware of what's going on, as other countries in Europe are starting to realize. But the only problem now, it's a little bit different. Now, Norway was willing to listen to a bunch of ex Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, what they're trying to do in the UK is they need 100,000 signatures. They need 100,000 signatures from British citizens or UK residents in order to be able to bring this up in Parliament. Now, 100,000 signatures, that's a lot of signatures, friends, but it comes with a little more difficulty to get this through. There's literally thousands and thousands of PMOs and PMEs in the United Kingdom. Thousands and thousands of them. That is, witnesses that are wanting to leave but don't leave because they're afraid. Then there's many witnesses still are very loyal. Now, what the government needs is these so-called active Jehovah's Witnesses to put their name publicly on a petition to get a letter through Parliament. That's almost impossible, right? I mean, what PMO wants to go on record in the United Kingdom that Jehovah's Witnesses is a bad organization, and what loyal witness is going to do it? So the witnesses, we might not get this through over there in the UK because that's a tough thing to do. You're not going to get active witnesses to come out and start speaking about the organization because we know what happens if they do. They're dead in the water. So it's highly unlikely that this position that Carling is trying to raise in the UK about Jehovah's Witnesses, it's unlikely that it will get the traction it should get. So I'll tell you, it's really to the point that it's discouraging at times the way some of these laws and what have you work, how they work, because it actually helps the Watchtower, and but we all should be very happy, even here in America, as those listening in from the UK should be very happy that we have a hyper intelligent, well-spoken ex-Jehovah's Witness victim, and he has access to the House of Commons. Now that's a darn good position that we have. So thank you very much for wanting to get involved, Sam, and help our community, and hopefully we can get this passed through the House of Commons. Okay, so you can see things here are really something else. All these things going on in the organization, and just another thing before we leave this idea of Carling looking into the charitable works of the Watchtower. He's seeing none. This Carling fella is seeing no charitable works. They don't have any charitable outreach like other churches have, right? I I mean, we all know about churches that they're known for helping people. And that's what a church does. I mean, that's the very foundation. If you want to go back to the first century, that was set up. It was set up for churches to help. Let me just see who this is calling in here. Well, let that one go right now. It's a spam call. But anyways, churches were originally set up in the first century. They were set up to collect money from the churchgoers and give it to the poor people who really, really needed it. So Sam Carling over there, he's saying that the Watchtower is not set up. There's other churches in the UK that are very charitable, and they actually help people, and that's what churches do. But he doesn't see in the Watchtower, and so many people, even all of us, know the Watchtower doesn't do anything but charity. So just bringing that thought up as well. And we brought up in the six screens a few years ago during COVID, and the Watchtower. Remember those food boxes that the Watchtower is giving out, and they claim, well, it was all from Trump. Trump, the government is the one that gave these food boxes out so the poor people could have some. But the witnesses kind of took it upon themselves to kind of suggest, and not even kind, it was blatantly expressed that it was from the branch and from Jehovah's loving organization that's giving you these food boxes. And, many witnesses actually stepped forward that didn't even need it. And they said, we're fine. We have enough money. We can buy food. We don't even want the box. And they were shoving the box at them. Take the box, take the box. And it really bothered some witnesses. And then when they found out that it wasn't even the Watchtower that was behind it was the government, and many people left the organization back then. Did you know that? That little scandal created a lot of havoc because the Watchtower lied about that food box. And the other thing is, though those food boxes were to be distributed to recipients that really were in need, people that really needed it. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they were even giving these boxes out to wealthy, affluent Jehovah's Witnesses, and they didn't even need it. And see, this is how the Watchtower, and yet they're asking the governments in these European countries for more and more money. Go ahead, you're on with us. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I guess, I grew up as a kid in the 70s. And now that I'm older, I'm in my 60s, the question is, like, what's the real truth? I mean, I guess it's in Christ or it's questionable. I guess I'm not sure what the answer to that would be. I think it's in Christ. And I remember during the Australian Royal Commission, where the brother had mentioned that it would be preposterous to say that they were the only true religion. So I guess that's my question, more or less. What do you feel?
Well, let me ask you this. Now, what's your name, sir? You can use your real name or use a Robert. Right. Well, let me ask you this, Robert. Why did you go to the Kingdom Hall in the beginning? Why did you want to be a Jehovah's Witness?
Well, my parents, they're devout witnesses, and so in the family, I've always brought up that way, and it's a good upbringing. You always want to do the right thing, help people, and do things like that. I myself was never baptized. I was never baptized, but the whole thing, I guess, when you hear about everlasting life and not being able to die, and all these are very, like, who, or paradise earth, like, who doesn't want a paradise earth? It's all like good news.
Yeah,
I know the Bible speaks of a new heavens and a new earth, but and a lot of the other churches speak of heaven, after you die. Maybe to me that makes more sense because I could see there's 100 billion people that live on the earth, and I could see everybody being resurrected. So you die, you get judged, you go to heaven, and it's just different. Because I think what Jesus said to the guy next to him is that I'll see you in paradise. He wasn't really talking about a future. I think he was talking about like after he died. So I mean that's primarily the reason.
All right. Well, Robert, you sound like a man that's searching. You sound like a man that is trying to find some
Yeah,
answers.
without a question, because you listen to people, a lot of like atheists. So I guess I guess I got to the point of being agnostic, but you hear people that are atheists, and they'll say like, well, we're just here. We're just a chance, and I can't see life as being a chance. It's just the fact that where the earth is and the beauty. I look around and I see like all the beautiful animals, and you see all these things, and to me, there has to be something. It just didn't happen to. I'm sure evolution does exist in a sense because things change. I mean, the COVID virus evolved, so in that sense, there is evolution, and I'm sure humans have changed through the years. But that's the other thing too. Like the dinosaurs were killed 66 million years ago from an asteroid, but if the Earth is a literal 6,000 years, so there's a contradiction. But I don't think it's really about the Bible. I think it's more about Christ. The Bible is a good handbook. It doesn't have to be literal with everything per se.
Well, I'm glad, Robert. I'm glad that at least you're reasoning, and that's good. There's no harm in reasoning. And well, what is sad to say, and I see it happen so often here because I do the call hit program for 20 years, but there's so many witnesses that get out of the organization and they head for the mountains. They stay as far away from God in the Bible as they can. So there's two camps. I always say that in the ex-witness world. There's a camp that still believe. It's very small though. It's only about 20% of people who leave the watch. Yeah, it's only about 20% of people who leave the Watchtower actually want to have some spirituality. I call them the believers camp. But 80%, Robert, are in the non-believers camp. So I'm gonna put you in the at least in the middle here somewhere, but I think you lean more to the believers camp. I think you do. I'm not trying to put words. Yeah.
Because there was a point. There was a point where I was thinking, like, well, maybe this is all by chance. But then you even see, let's say, the sign of all the creatures and even the dinosaurs, let's say. I mean, and the Earth just being able to sustain life. It's not something that's easily done. And I understand you can be hijacked by a faith because every religion's going to say they're the right religion. But it's like the old saying, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you just have to reevaluate. I mean, it's a very interesting thing,
Well, the reason why I even asked you when you called in here, you're really saying what is the truth, but and I asked you why you were a Jehovah's Witness. Now I was a Jehovah's Witness. I wasn't looking for the social aspect of it. I had a bunch of friends anyways, and but I didn't really need the social aspect of it to make my life better. But many witnesses become witnesses because there's other people in there that become their friends. But as a young man, excuse me, I went to the Jehovah's Witness organization because I wanted to learn about God. And forgive me for saying that. Maybe some people say, "Ah, that's crazy, Rick," but no, I did. I as a younger person, I really wanted to learn about God, and I thought the Jehovah's Witnesses really had the answer at one time. I thought they really did, and I sucked it right up. And I really thought they were the only religion in the world that was the only right one, and we all got sucked into that. But so when you originally went there, I mean, did you read the Watchtower? Did you read the Bible? Did you take this stuff seriously, Robert?
Yes, actually, I did, and I used to read the Watchtower. I used to study, but I wasn't, in my teens, I wasn't as serious because you figure life is forever. And then the years go by, and then actually, when I was in my teens, I actually gave a talk in the back room. I guess it was number one talk, like more like a Bible reading, but maybe when I was 17 years old. And I guess it was all this is back in the 70s. I don't know. I guess I just kind of stumbled on things because I kind of suffer from depression. And whenever I concentrate on things that are like, oh, you're going to be destroyed and this and that, I'm kind of like the type of person that, wow, I'm not even going to try because I'm never going to be good enough. And that's a bad trait. Some people do the opposite. Oh my God, I've got to do a lot more. So that kind of worked against me. And then, I got married and time went by and here I am. And then I started thinking like, oh my God, how is this possible? How are we in the year 2000 and the new system didn't come? Back then we called it the new system. Or how is it 2012 and, the generation and then I started questioning and I started reading Crisis of Conscience with Raymond Franz. That made me think. And then there was another brother that Raymond Franz stayed at their house.
Gregerson. Peter Gregerson.
Yes. Right. And then I read his book. And, I started thinking like, well, anybody could say they're God's organization, but that's a big claim. But then you have to go back to the foundation. Like, how did it come up? And then it was brought out 1919. I never even heard of 1919 with the convention in Cedar Point, Ohio, or someplace where they said that that God had chose him. I forget what the reason was, but I guess because what they were teaching. But then Brother Gregerson mentioned that, and he's a very, very nice man, mentioned all the factors that contradict, because a few years later they were doing things at that time that if they were God's faith, they were celebrating Christmas, they were doing birthdays, and so if Jesus chose them, how is it possible that they chose them?
Oh yeah, these are all good questions, Robert, and I'm glad that you're putting two and two together. We've had Peter Gregerson on here a number of times. He's old now, but we've been on here for 20 years. But going back about 15 years ago, we've had Peter Gregerson, we've had Eddie, we've had James Penton, we've had everyone you can think of, other than Ray Franz. He came very, very close to coming on, but he didn't come on. He was very, very close. But Robert, what to do? I mean, you got an inquisitive mind. I want you to continue. I don't think you called in here before, did you?
Never did. No. And I watched some of the YouTube videos with John Cedars. I don't think they call him John Cedars, but I forget his name. And then a few videos which they bring up interesting things and things to think about. Like a lot of people don't, but if you want to know the truth, I think the problem with me is that when the things that they said, because I remember like in the 70s, 1974, my grandfather was a criminal lawyer, and then he would come over to the house. I was like 14, and then I would say, oh, I want to be an attorney. And then I remember going to the meetings and he'd say, no, you don't want to be a lawyer. That's these lawyers in the system.
Yeah, it took a good career away from.
Like that's why things not happening. I started thinking, like, how is it possible? Like, here we are in 2026. Why didn't this happen? It just.
Well, what I want to do is I want to hear your whole story. I don't have time to hear it tonight, and but I'll tell you what, we do have a program on Sunday afternoon that you can take up with the whole hour and tell your story. And I'd like to hear your whole story. And we're not having it tomorrow. We have it every other Sunday here on the Six Screens Network. Same telephone number. And where are you calling from?
New York.
Oh, New York. But yeah, so you're on the Eastern time. So what it would be if you called in next Sunday, not tomorrow, but the following Sunday at 2:00, we have a program. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their story of being in the Watchtower. And boy, the lady that has the show, she's an ex-witness. Her name is Anne Marie. She'd love to have you tell your story and you go right through it, get it off your chest, and you'll find it very fascinating if you can do that, Robert. Could you do that? You think?
I've been to conventions or assemblies at the Belmont racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brother Noah would be there. I remember seeing Brother Noah
Yeah.
back in the 70s. He was a president.
Oh, yeah. Well, what you want to do, you want to come on there, you want to come on that program, tell your whole story so we can get it right from the very beginning. But, geez, we appreciate you calling in. I wish I could spend a little more time with you, but we got to get back.
I appreciate speaking with you. And it's life is interesting. And I just hope that, and the other thing that I learned too, I'll make it really quick because I may be busy. By doing research, I started learning, well, I always wondered why Jesus called his dad father. But then I kind of learned that the Yahweh was from the Old Testament.
Right. Now, here's what we're going to do. On Saturday night, we don't get really into the scriptures too much. But on Sunday, on Sunday, we can get into scriptures, talk about all of that. So why don't you do that? Make it a plan, write it down, and come in next Sunday. But come in next Saturday night too, and we'll remind you. Okay, Robert? Oh, geez, Robert, thank you for checking in. Thank you. Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for calling. Yep.
Always a pleasure.
All right, thank you. Well, there you go. There you go. You got a new caller calling in. And look at this. More and more people leaving the Watchtower, friends. I mean, this is just absolutely unbelievable what we see going on. And isn't it refreshing to hear new ones coming in? So we want to thank Robert for coming in New York. I just want to put something up here. Let me go back to going back and forth to different screens here. But I want to put up a picture. I want you to see this man. This is Sam Carling here. That's him there. Look at him. A young man. We should be so happy to have this man on our side. He is fighting over there in the UK, trying to get the charity money taken away from the Watchtower. He's trying to expose the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, not only the witnesses, but the world over there of how evil the Jehovah's Witnesses are. So, Sam, stay at it. Don't ever give in, up or out. And, of course, he's trying to take away their charity status. Now, are the Jehovah's Witnesses, do they show charity? Look at this picture right here. Look at this picture. This is not some Photoshop picture. This is a cart, a Jehovah's Witness cart on a sidewalk in some ghetto somewhere in some city. There you have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 witnesses, I believe, at least four witnesses there, and standing next to a homeless man sleeping on the street. Now, what would a real church do here? I mean, wouldn't they feed the man? I mean, maybe they did. I rather doubt it, but maybe it's just a picture. Then they did something for the poor man. But that picture always strikes my fancy. So there it is right there. Friend, you're on JW World News. We give you news that the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. Obviously, what we try to do here on 6 Screens is expose what really goes on. They give you one side of the story. We give you the other side right here, and we do it every Saturday night, as we say, right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. Let's go down a little bit here further. Let's examine a few other things. Oh, I wanted to bring this up tonight. Did this really? I got to think. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, it's Matthew here about Sam Carling.
Yes.
I'm British. I did write to him last year. But there's also another member of Parliament who's really with it. And for all the British citizens that might be listening, there's also Thomas Cameron. Now, Thomas Cameron is the opposition party to Sam Carling. But let me just make this clear. Thomas, though he is in the opposition party, the way that he presents things in Parliament, it looks like he is supportive when Sam brings things up in Parliament. So it's useful also to write to Thomas as well, Thomas Cameron, and they both do reply. So that's it, Rick. I thought you might find that interesting. Or those that are from Britain, you can write. Of course, it does count if you're in their jurisdiction. So that's really important. But they do respond if you write to them.
Well, thank you, Matthew, for sharing that. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of letter writing going on. the world is really waking up to how dangerous and destructive the Jehovah's Witness organization is. And it wasn't always this way, Matthew. It really wasn't. I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. But in the last 20 years, 20 years ago, I had a hard time finding anything cynical, negative, critical about the Watchtower. I really did. The only thing I could ever find online was how great the cities are going to be doing when the witnesses come into the convention, and the money that's going to be spent, and the hotels are going to make money, the restaurants are going to make money. That's what I used to see, the only positive things. And now that's the only thing that was on there before. Nothing really negative about the witnesses. But boy, today people get showered with negativity and all of the bad, evil deeds that are going on in the Watchtower. So this is all, it's a new world. And it excites me to see this, because we are witnessing the death of a religion. And for that matter of fact, I think the Watchtower has already fallen. I think it's already dead. It just hasn't fallen over yet. I'm serious. I'm not trying to look through rose-colored glasses here. Where we have an organization really that's really having to rebrand itself like never before. That they can't go on with who they are. They better come up with some really good ideas, because it's just not going to go on. You can't have a business that's so corrupt and so scandalous, and now everyone's understanding about it, to go on and continue on and prosper. It's the same thing with the Watchtower. It's just a business, and now it's being exposed for the scandals and all the corruption that they're hiding behind. So it's numbered. It's common sense. It's numbered. Well, let's take a look and see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. And I wanted to bring this up because sometimes I just like to bring up, thoughts about being a Jehovah's Witness and what happened in your kingdom hall, what happened in my kingdom hall. And all of a sudden, this thought just hit me in the last couple of days. Does your congregation have cliques, or did your congregation have cliques? Well, mine did. I have to tell you, right here in Wilmington, Massachusetts, cliques galore. And generally now, there's various ways how they form, and we'll get into that. But in my particular congregation, there was a lot of relatives, brothers, sisters that were, relatives of each other. And also they would cover up for their mistakes. And these guys were elders, many of them. And what these cliques would do is they would practice being together, little tight-knit groups. And you could tell the cliques. You could see who they were in the Kingdom Hall. Now, I'm sure you had them in your hall even. They're in every congregation. There's no doubt about it. Now, some of these groups, like I say, this particular group had to do with relatives that were sticking together. And anything that one of those relatives would do that would be bad. If the person wasn't part of that little clique, they'd be thrown out of the organization. They'd be disfellowshipped in a heartbeat. But I can remember one instance, and there was I'd say it was a real tight-knit couple of families that were related, and they were elders, and many of them were, and their families could do no wrong. But everybody else in the Kingdom Hall was like, put on the bad list. And I remember there was a young girl. She was the daughter of an elder, and she was drugging. She was really getting deeply into drugs, and they were covering that up like crazy. But a lot of the other witnesses knew it, but they were covering that up like crazy. Anybody else would have been disfellowshipped on the spot for what this girl was doing. But she was the daughter of an elder, and they swept it right under the rug and hush, hush, hush. And that nothing ever happened to her. But yet my own son, he wasn't disfellowship, but was brought up early, and we talked about that before. He was walking down the street with a white pen in his mouth, and he was brought in. It wasn't a judicial hearing, but it was a back room hearing, and they wanted to. They brought him in and said, "Jack, why were you smoking?" He had no clue to what the elders were even talking about. And so I was in the back with him. I said, "Jack, were you smoking?" "No." So one of the elders says, "Well, what was that white thing that you had in your mouth?" He said, "That's just a white pen that I have." And he still had it in his pocket. And so he showed it to them. But I mean, here he is getting picked on for having a pen in his mouth, and yet you got a young girl who's a real addict in the congregation, and that's all getting covered up by the elders. Isn't that something? Well, that's what happens. And so what happens is these little cliques. You say, well, how do they get going? And I'm sure you had it, like I say, in your congregation. Now, some of these cliques, I'll tell you another thing that creates clique is an economic status, the level. If you have some witnesses in a congregation that have more money than other Jehovah's Witnesses, well, the ones with money, they look down on the members and they promote materialism. Now, they drive big fancy cars, they live in big fancy houses, and they try to pass themselves off as very spiritual people. And, the ones that don't have as much money, well, they're just ordinary witnesses. They're not that spiritual. Isn't that terrible? But that happens. That happens in the Jehovah's Witness organization. There are cliques, friends, relatives. They always kind of click together. They make decisions among themselves. They protect each other. They promote each other. Oh, isn't Brother Zealous great? I mean, you know how that works. And they intentionally leave others out of their little clique. They don't want anybody else in there. They know who they want, and they don't want others. I mean, I've noticed it. Every congregation has it. And I'm going to tell you what one of the driving forces is behind these cliques in Jehovah's Witness religion. Well, one of the driving forces is the elderettes. Oh, yes, the elderettes. That's the wives of the elders. They call them elderettes, right? So anyways, these elderettes, they're power-hungry elders' wives. Oh, yes, a power-hungry elder's wife. Well, she's pulling the strings behind the scenes. How many times have we had people call in here and talk about the elderettes, and what they do and how devious they are? See, well, what it is, they create a lot of chaos. The elderettes, elders' wives, no, not all. You can't make a blanket statement. I knew many elderettes, so to speak, that were really nice, sensible-minded women, but there's a lot that aren't. And so they cause a lot of chaos, and they feed the rumor mills. Oh, yes, they feed the rumor mills in the congregations. You see, the elders' wives, they are told confidential things that they really shouldn't be told. Well, let's face it, that happens. An elder comes home, he had an elders meeting. Oh, honey, I shouldn't tell you this. Probably has a couple of sips of whiskey, a couple of beers, gets feeling good. I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. Did you know this was going on with Sister Smith? I mean, so the elderettes, they spread these rumors, and you know what happens when people start talking, right? So one elder's wife talks to another woman in the hall, and then they spread it, and the other woman says the same thing. And by the time it gets down to 10 or 15 people, you play that game, right? It's all mixed up. You got this person, being the worst person in the world. So elderettes are very responsible in creating cliques. And then all these people who have the rumor, they all stick together and talk about how bad that other person is. That's a great Christian organization. What do you have to say and run with us? Go ahead.
Is that me, Rick?
That's you.
Hey, I'm going to see if I make the show look good, but I'm going to answer your question about Ramapo. And Ramapo is genius. Everything Watchtower is doing is a copycat of the Catholic Church. Listen, Rick, the Catholic Church has buildings that have been around for 400 years, 500 years, and it's always been under construction. Do you know why? Because you cannot tax a building in Italy or Spain or whatever in Europe while it's under construction. So the Catholic Church for 2,000 years had a nice little business going where they would just continue working on that church. And then in the year 2000, it got, we finished the construction. But here's the thing that people don't tell you, that in that process, there were families, and let's call them like the Schroeders, the Albert Schroeder types. And he has a son he sent to college while he told all of you not to go to college. And he was a general contractor back in the 2,000 years ago. And he told his son, listen, we got a great gig going here. We're going to build this church, and it's going to take 2,000 years to build. And in these 2,000 years, we're going to destroy the families of all of these workers. We're going to give them promotions. We're going to make them look good. And then we're going to chop them and drop them from the top of the building. And we're going to disfellowship them. We're going to throw women at them, have them, fall into fornication and pornea. And we're going to destroy their families and their children. And guess what? Their families are destroyed, and they're poor. That's why you're listening to this show and you're poor, financially poor, while they're financially rich. Because financially rich people destroy families, so you can never get a chance to get up in the ladder. While Albert Schroeder sends his kid to college and works behind the scenes as a lawyer, they continue being rich. They continue, so Ramapo is going to be here, and it's going to stay. I don't care what anybody says, because everybody who disagrees with me is wrong. Ramapo's here for one reason, is to make you work as a slave, and they're going to send you back to your hometown, disfellowship you and your wife, make you get a divorce, and Ramapo is going to make bucks, lots of money. And when they finish with you, they're going to bring in another sucker, and they're going to have him go work for Jehovah for another 2 weeks for free in Ramapo. That's how rich people do it. And you're not part of the club. You're a servant. And you will always serve Jehovah, and you will be his slave. And you got to get that through your head. So while you are a Jehovah's Witness going to the Kingdom Hall, you should have been with your dad at the bar drinking. That's what we should have been doing. And this is why. Because the way it's supposed to work is the dad works with his children, and then they build a home and another home and another home, and they pass it on to the next generation. The dad dies, and he tells his kids, you got to do the same thing. And I used to be a carpenter. You're going to be a carpenter. Look at Jesus' dad. His dad was a carpenter. What did Jesus do? He didn't pass out magazines. Jesus was a carpenter, just like his dad. And what did he do? He made money. And what did he do? He gave it to his brothers, and he gave it to his mom. Jesus left a nice little business right there in the house, making money, so his mom and his brothers and sisters could be taken care of. And then Jesus went and did what he had to do. That's the model. So all of you who disagree, put your phone down. Take notes, because Ramapo is here to stay. And Ramapo is going to destroy more families, keep everybody subservient, and they're going to laugh their way to the bank. The Catholics have done this for 2,000 years, and the Jehovah's Witnesses are barely getting started. Rick, that's all I have for today. Call me crazy, but that's my take.
Well, those are words of wisdom, Gilbert. No, seriously. It's a game. It's really a game, and they're milking it for all it's worth. Thank you, Gilbert. Gilbert Gonzalez. Yes.
You know where to send it, Rick. You know where to
That's
send it.
totally you've done, Gilbert. That's the best one.
Yeah, the man of wisdom. I'm going to call Gilbert the man of wisdom. He comes on here with his little take on the subject, and we always appreciate it. Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you.
I have one thing to dovetail onto that beautiful homily by Gilbert Gonzalez.
Yes.
When I learned the word overseer, and the people that were enslaved had an overseer, the light went on for me.
Something clicked.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, I'll tell you, Pixie, sometimes in life, a little thing can really trigger something. And then you get it. You say, man, I got it. I see what's going on here. So I like.
Also, publisher versus, that we weren't publishers. They were the ones that had the publishing company.
Yeah, it's kind of like a misnomer too. We weren't publishing anything. They were the ones publishing something. Yeah, that's a lot of things. Pixie, you go back on the trail and you pick up on them. It just makes total sense now. But we didn't think of that. I didn't really even give any thought at all. Why am I called a publisher? I never thought about that. But now that we're out and we're ex-witnesses, man, we think about a lot of stuff that just never made sense. But unbelievable. Okay, so who else would like to speak up? Well, let's move on. Let me just discuss this a little more. Unless someone wants to say something right now, go ahead. If not,
Oh, hi, Rick. Oh, yeah.
okay, we got a lady on here. Who is this?
Hi, Nadine.
Oh, Nadine. I didn't recognize your voice, Nadine.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm cranking away at it. Yes.
Good. I just wanted to talk about the cliques in the congregation.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'd love to have you talk about that.
Okay. All right. So, yes, there were lots of cliques. And what it was is really what you said. It's the elders in the congregation and their wives. And so they would, get together and have parties, and everybody knew about the parties. But other people were not invited. They were not included. And it really created problems in the congregation. Because the other people, like just the regular publishers that were single in the congregation, or if they were, it doesn't matter if they were married or not, but their husbands were not ministerial servants or elders. So these people were not included. And so everybody that was not an elder and an elder's wife felt bad because they weren't included in all the parties. And the parties were pretty big, and they mostly celebrated anniversary parties where they would have limos. The limos would come and pick up the group at the elder's house. And then they would go to some fancy hotel and have a reception and have it catered for the couple with the anniversary, the elder and his wife. And I saw this all the time. I saw it all the time.
And but poor Nadine was never invited.
Not to those. Not to those, because I wasn't married to an elder.
Well, it's crazy.
And I wasn't a pioneer either. I wasn't a pioneer. I did, the auxiliary pioneering every now and then, but I wasn't a regular pioneer. So it made a big difference. But even the pioneers who were, say, single, and they weren't married, they weren't even invited to these anniversary parties. It was the married couples, the elders and their wives.
Well, I'll tell you, there's no doubt there's like a little clique going on there. And I mean, it happened in every congregation, and it's not on
Right. It's the same story.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just not. No, in fact, I had, if you can believe this, some information that came into me from a man, and it kind of goes in a different direction, but still is a clique. And he said that they had a crazy clique in his Kingdom Hall. And what this clique was, they call it the Bad Association Clique. Now, yeah, this is a crazy. So what it was these were young male men, for the most part, that all knew the Watchtower is problematic and not telling the truth. So they actually formed a clique inside the Kingdom Hall, and they all chummed around together. They call it the Bad Association Clique. So they could.
That one sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like I'd want to be part of that one. Yeah, I could be. Yeah.
I could have joined that one.
But you know what happens here is, it isn't all saying you feel like the third monkey on Noah's Ark, but so many people in the witness world that they feel that way, and then why wouldn't they? In a regular church gathering, people get together and they have a really good time and they really love one another and they're genuine. But boy, there's very little genuineness. I forget what the term would even be, but being genuineness, is that a term? Yeah, genuineness. I think so. I don't know, but I mean, whatever it would be, it's at least in a real church, you would feel like, hey, I'm wanted here. But boy, I tell you, there's been many outings I went to in the witness world that, I went, but boy, you felt, as I said earlier, like the third monkey on Noah's Ark. You just didn't feel like I'm not fitting in here. I'm not part of the group. We all felt that.
Well, you know how they're told not to have a showy display of, one's means of life? Well, okay, so what does the limousine represent? That was kind of going overboard
a little bit, being picked up by a limousine to
He,
go to the hotel.
yeah, it's a little overboard, but I'll tell you, I'll tell you something. In fact, that when I was in Florida, and the presiding overseer, and he was a good man. I'm not picking on him, but he goes out and he buys a brand new Lincoln Continental, a very expensive car. Now, I'm not complaining about expensive cars. Or, there's probably even no reason why I should bring this up, but I'm bringing it up for a reason. If you're going to be even exemplary, if you're going to be, say, an elder, you don't want to flaunt it. For crying out loud, you get people in the congregation, they can't afford a brand new Lincoln Continental. So why would you just buy a nice car? It doesn't have to be top of the line. But, many elders would do that out of a spirit of showing off or whatever they were trying to do. But that wasn't doing anything to make the witnesses feel good. Geez, what if a person, I mean, many poor people, some congregations have very wealthy Jehovah's Witnesses, some have non-wealthy ones. But that's not how it works in the real church. The real church, people love one another no matter who they are in most true Christian churches. But it's really a shame that the Watchtower has to develop these little cliques. Well, I'm part of this and you're not. And they don't come right out and tell you that you're not part of it, but they certainly make you know that you're not by their actions and their body language, Yeah.
Well, when they don't invite you, then you know you're not part of it.
Excuse me. Well, that's exactly what's going on right now in the witness world. They're told to not judge one another, but their body language is gonna speak for itself. Hey, who else has a story of cliques? You must have. You've been in a congregation. You must have had a clique. Did you feel like you were left out? Did you feel like?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was all kinds of cliques in Rhode Island, and there was one clique in my own family, and I wasn't in it. Desiree and I weren't in it because I don't know. It was cousins night, and it really was because we were cousins, and I used to call out my family. Well, we're cousins. Well, you're second cousins, but it was because there was a couple of cousins that didn't like me because I got this fellowship, and they've always had a problem with me the moment I got this fellowship and never forgave me, and I don't even know. I didn't do anything to them. But that was one clique, and they would always go out to dinner and whatever, and you would never know any stories from that place. But anyways, that was one clique. But then there was other cliques, and there was like the cool crowd clique. Who else knows about that? The cool guys, right? Who's cool? Well, that went all the way to like guys going in the back room with strippers, and then eventually the whole thing blew up, and marriages were at stake, and the elders were disfellowshipping quite a few people over it. So there's all kinds of cliques, and I think it happens because you also put a group of people together that really don't have anything in common, much in common other than the organization. I don't know. That's my little story on it. Also, one more thing I wanted to talk about when on Dick and Constance's show, they were talking about elders and how were they fair or not. I remember Joe Janess told me a story about a brother who was in Dayton, Massachusetts. It's like not far from Rhode Island. It's closer to Rhode Island than where Rick lives. And this brother got called in to the elders, and they said, we got word that you committed fornication. And this brother was a single older man, and he said, no, it's not true. And they said, well, we have two witnesses. And then I guess there were two sisters who really hated this man, and they wanted to just ruin his life, and they did. And the man refused to my buddy knew the guy, and he refused to admit that he did anything wrong, and the brothers would never reinstate him until he admitted it and was sorry. So I guess like close to 20 years came around, and those sisters that slandered his name, they left the organization, and he ended up. One of them spilled the beans, and it got around that he didn't actually do anything, and the elders ended up reinstating him.
But this is the kind of injustice. It just kind of goes to show that anybody can rule the congregation. So two witnesses can make something up and ruin a man's life just because, I don't know, they don't like the way he dresses, or they think he's nerdy, or for whatever reason. But when people say that are Jehovah's Witnesses good people, it depends how much you follow the organization and their bad practices and teachings. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Eric. Always good to hear from you. No, it's something when you stop and even examine the whole Jehovah's Witness world, they're in a world of themselves. It really is. It's you leave the planet when you become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's such an amazing thing to me. As I'm out, and I'm sure you guys think about this too. How is it that we could allow an organization to take and control us like they did? And we all went along with it at some point. We all did. And then, of course, many of us now said enough is enough. But all of this stuff, as I look back on the trail, and, cliques, that doesn't sound like a big thing. I mean, businesses have cliques. In school, there's cliques. You probably had it when you went to school. But, that shouldn't happen in a Christian religion. They shouldn't be having these little groups and spreading rumors and you're not part of my group. I don't want you part of my group. That shouldn't exist in a Christian religion. There's no, I mean, go back, look at it. Jehovah's Witnesses say they're Christian. Well, which they do. They say they're the only true Christians on the planet. I mean, I'm sure there were cliques even back in the first century. There's always been cliques. But, it's something that the Bible wouldn't encourage, right? I mean, Jesus and his disciples, there's no mention of them being in a clique. That they could have all been in a clique and said, hey, look, we're the ones that are closest to Jesus. We don't have to go out and spread this good news of his. We'll keep it to ourselves. These other people are a bunch of peons anyways. Leave them alone. They don't need Jesus' message. I mean, they could have said these things, but they didn't form cliques. So, you guys have all experienced it. And who'd like to tell this story of being a clique? Anyone else out there? We got a lot of people on the line here tonight. I'm looking at two computer screens filled with telephone numbers. Don't be bashful. Did you experience a clique? Were you in a clique? Were you a clique? Were you a clique ringleader? Were you a clique ringleader? Say that 5 times fast. Maybe you were. Maybe you felt like, hey, I'm better than the rest of these guys. They can't keep up with me. What do you think?
Hey, Rick?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, Scott. I saw cliques all the times in congregations in Chelmsford and here in Florida. And I used to get a kick out of the fact that when the circuit overseer would come, he would sometimes try to make up groups and he wouldn't know who these cliques were, right? I mean, the rest of us did. You kind of knew, okay, these people are always going to go out and service together, and these people are always their best friends. They're going to go out. So when you made up car groups, it wasn't terribly hard. It was only maybe the odd one out every now and then. And I had a family, so it was always the 5 of us in the car. So it was pretty easy for me. But when the circuit overseer would come, he'd try to mix people up, and they didn't like it. They definitely didn't like it. And sometimes even afterwards, they would rearrange the car groups behind the scenes to make sure that they were going back out in service with whoever it is they liked going out with. And, we had a few other friends that we were really comfortable with and liked going out. And we'd all get together because, we'd always go on a nice long break and then do some return visits after the break. So it kind of made the door-to-door activity short. And I don't know what everybody else did, but you knew who the cliques were because they were definitely together out in service. So that's kind of what I saw.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Scott. That brings up memories. That's true. Even little service groups, they would all work, stay together. They wouldn't widen out. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no problem.
I want to get in. Rick, you had me laughing. I think you had a little Freudian slip when you said, were you a clique leader? I saw definitely the cliques. I was never in a clique because my personality, so of course I never fit in. but I thought that was pretty good. Were you a prick, click leader? Good one, Rick. I love it.
I don't know.
Thank you, Rick.
I don't even remember saying that, but thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, anyways, they exist. They exist, and many of us saw it up front and close, and it's even happening today. It really, really is. The congregations, even though the Watchtower organization is trying to make tremendous changes, and we talked about it last week, and in the May edition of the Watchtower, the study edition of the Watchtower, May edition, they're talking about all these monumental changes, and they're asking, at least not asking, they're demanding that the brothers and sisters do not judge. Right. Now, we know that Jehovah's Witness congregation, the people judge like crazy. And they're trying to get the witnesses to stop doing that. And this is for reasons of governmental involvement too. The witnesses are being put under the microscope by many governments, as we talk about every week here. So they're going to be very careful. A judgmental group is not a good group. And it really, really isn't. We're living in a world that constantly is, especially in the political world, right? Constantly judging, oh, this guy's bad. Look what's going on even in our own Congress, how it's so divided. But this judgmental stuff has got to disappear. And I'm glad the Watchtower is even coming out, but I'm sure there's a motive behind it that has to do with money or governmental interference if they don't stop doing this. But the Jehovah's Witnesses are known for judging one another. And then even in this article, as we brought up last week, that this really floored me, is they're even telling the elders to back off from making personal decisions. Really. And, it had to deal specifically with higher education. And the article started off on that premise of higher education and how the elders are not to get involved with it. Back off. If a family feels their daughter or son should go to school, higher education after high school, then that's their decision, period. So a lot of authority has been taken away from the elders, and not just in terms of, higher education, but in terms of all personal matters. Now I'll just bring it up again, that there's many rules in the organization that are unwritten. And so consequently, the elders have always poked their nose around in everybody's business, including the elderette, the elders' wives. But rules like, suppose you went out and after work, you went out with one of your associates to a restaurant. Now, if a witness saw you there, who's that you were with? Well, that was a work. Well, they're worldly. Now, they would judge you on that. Now, you wouldn't get disfellowship, but you'd be judged for that. You'd be judged if you were caught going into an R-rated movie. So now they're told to back off. Don't get involved in all this personal stuff. Leave it alone. Go ahead, you run with us. What would you like to say?
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Hey, it's Dean. Good to see you feeling better, brother.
Well, thank you, Dean. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that from a man of your caliber. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Hey, I want to mention there's only 2 cliques that I want to be a part of.
Yes.
I only want to be a part of the 6 Screens clique and not the Jehovah Witness one.
Oh, good for you. That's a good clique to be part of.
Yeah. And then kind of adding to what you were just speaking about, Rick, a wise man once told me, whenever you don't understand something, Dean, it's always usually about money. And when you come to think about it, that's the truth. That's why the J-dubs are beginning to panic, because they see their money fountain drying up.
Exactly.
You know? And then I just want to leave everybody with this. I came up with this on my own. You know, they talk about the 7 deadly sins, right?
Oh, yeah.
To me, there are only 3, brother. It's money, power, and sex. And when you think about this whole scandal with the Jehovah wickedness, that's what those three all are stemming from. Money, power, because these elders think they got some power to dictate and scrutinize everybody under their so-called watchful eyes. And then usually the elders are committing the bad pedophilia and sex abuse. So I just want to end with that, Brother Rick. Thanks for letting me speak a bit, and God bless you.
Well, Dean, you're a man that I would like to be like. You are a committed, dedicated person. You love God, and you stay to what you say. You're a man that does what he says he does. And it was so good meeting you and talking with you and getting to really know the real Dean up at the convention last summer. I thank you for coming up there, Dean. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. That was the highlight of my year last year. I had a lot of bad breaks, but I tell you what, that was the highlight of it. So hopefully maybe you'll do it again. I don't know if I can make it out, but we'll have to see what happens. We're not guaranteed tomorrow.
No, well, I'll tell you what, it's something that's on the minds of all of us. And I walk out of my garage, I still get some of the stuff that's left over, the banners and stuff, and it always brings back memories. But I always think of you, Dean. I always think of you. You were you gave quite the talk there, believe me, quite the talk. You're a good man, Dean. Don't you ever change.
Thank you, Brother Rick. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. From Hawaii, that's Dean. My goodness. Well, I'll tell you, everyone has a story to tell, right? If you ever were involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses, you are not going to get out of there totally unscathed. There's going to be something that's going to raise your eyebrows. There's going to be something that really kind of sets you back at times. It does to me. I mean, I don't get totally discouraged about it, but one of the things that really ticks me off. Now, I'm 78 years old, and I was a Jehovah's Witness for 50 years of my life. And one of the things that really ticks me off is, when I stop and think about the things that you could have done. I mean, I raised 5 children, and, it's difficult. Pampers, milk every day, food, keeping a roof over their head. Oh, you got to be at the meetings, Brother Farron. You don't want to be working overtime. You got to go more in service. My goodness, all of the added effort and time that I look back now, and you're trying to struggle along and raise a family and keep the bills paid. And then these guys were making life miserable for you. They could see that the guy is struggling, but he should be doing more. He should be doing more. And I'm sure that happened to you too. But that's probably the biggest disappointment when I look back. And the money I gave them, the time and effort I spent in their service, that bothers me. That ticks me off a little bit because, boy, but I'm sure other things tick people off even more than that. But at least I moved along and I did fine. But there's a lot of people listening to this program here tonight that their lives have been totally displaced by this witness movement. And it's really great to see all of these countries like Norway and France and Japan. And we're talking here tonight about the United Kingdom, even putting the witnesses under the microscope. It's really refreshing to see that because we can't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. All of us apostates and all of the YouTubers and all the creators in the ex-witness world, we need help. We need a lot of help. And we're getting it. We have allies. We now have the government. We are now getting those points on the scoreboard. And that should make us all happy, right? I mean, what's this movement all about? What's the ex-witness world all about? To talk about how great Jehovah's Witnesses are? To talk about, what a fantastic organization? No, we are here to explore and to expose the monumental issues that are going on in a religion that is just getting away with basically murder. And we have to expose it. And that's what we do. And that's why we have so many dedicated people call in every Saturday night. And we really appreciate them doing that. All right, you're on with us. What do you have to say? Well, you want to click? Did you start a clique? Did you? Yes. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was in a car group back in the early 80s, and the sisters had a clique with, they were all pioneers, and they used to badmouth the non-pioneers, saying that they were spiritually weak and they don't have, a lot. They don't really want to go out and field service because they're not pioneering, and they're more holier than the non-pioneer sisters. And I just couldn't believe I was hearing all that, but they were really bad mouthing the non-pioneer sisters, saying that, they're just like, what do we call it, like low-key witnesses. They don't really want to be a strong witness, or they would pioneer. So they formed a clique with themselves, And I heard it was a big thing in a lot of congregations that the pioneers would, brag about being pioneers and, thinking that they were more of a witness than the non-pioneer sisters.
Well, John, that's I'm glad you brought the pioneer aspect of this into the arrangement tonight, because a few people have, and now I'm really thinking that there was probably more pioneer generated cliques than anything else, because the pioneers, not all of them, I can't make a blanket statement, but a lot of the pioneers really thought that they were so special and that everybody should be pioneering. And yeah, they were very cliquey, very cliquey. Well, you brought back memories. I can remember you in my congregation, but not all pioneers were like that. But in some congregations, I'm sure they really, really did form these little cliques that, we're more spiritual than everybody else because we're putting more time in. So thank you, John. Good to hear from you, John. You doing all right?
Oh, yeah. I had an elder call me up to the memorial, and I said, no, thank you. He was like, well, John, the Iran war we're heading to the Great Tribulation, and you better come back, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, call me when the Iran war is over. And he got angry at me.
Well,
every time they said the same thing with COVID, we were near the Great Tribulation, and now it's the Iranian war. We're near the Great Tribulation, and I don't know how long, what it's going to take for some of them to wake up. It's just.
Well, I'm surprised that elder didn't use the trick they got going around this year. If you don't come to the memorial, it's worse than death. And they use the scripture concerning the Passover, that, people who didn't go to the Passover, who deliberately avoided going, their punishment in the Old Testament was worse than death. And now this year, they're trying to get, as we talked about earlier, they're trying to get as many Jehovah's Witnesses to the memorial as they possibly can. They got to do it. They got to get the numbers. The governing body is watching this memorial more than any other memorial in the history of the Jehovah's Witness religion. They've got to get, with all the turmoil going on in their religion, they've got to get people there. So what they're even saying, many witnesses are now saying to, their relatives and friends, people who've left the Watchtower, you got to come back. You got to, if you miss this memorial, it's worse than death. Can you imagine pulling that trick on someone? Jeez. Too much.
A lot of elders are called. I heard a couple of my friends and elders called them up too, talking about inviting them to the memorial and the assembly, and so a lot of people are gonna be getting phone calls, I bet.
Oh, this is going to be more than ever. And as I said earlier, John, the reason, last year I believe it was 23 million. They claim, whether it's true or not, who knows, but the witnesses claim 23 million people attended the memorial. Now, they got to keep upping the ante. You can't drop back to 22 million. You can't drop back to 21 million. You got to get 24, 25. So they got to go all out to do this. And they're calling people up. They're calling up even people who've been disfellowshipped. Come on back into the meeting and come to the memorial this year and all of this. And bring your friends, bring your relatives, bring anybody. Now, this is the one figure that the witnesses have got to be very careful about. They can't super exaggerate the memorial attendance. And I'll tell you why. Because all of us ex-witnesses, we have eyes out to the Kingdom Halls, and we drive by and we see a parking lot that's not full. That means there's not a lot of people that came to the memorial. So they can try to fudge the numbers and cook the books, but reality will speak for itself. We have people calling in. Rick, I went by the hall. There's hardly anybody here. I've been hearing this a lot for the last few memorials. So they can.
The irony of it, Jesus had 12.
What's that?
I said the irony of keeping count of numbers. Jesus had 12.
Yeah. Well, Pixie, I have to tell you, see what it is, and we all have come to grips with this. These guys, I have to give them credit. They are really good. Oh, they're good liars. They're good scam artists. They're good at telling stories that aren't true and far-fetched to get you to spend money. They're good at it. I mean, I have to really give credit when credit is due.
From New York.
Oh my God. I mean, I think in terms of how do you get, look at, put it this way. Some say that Walmart is the largest employer in the world. And I'll tell you who comes in second. Now, Walmart has 10 million employees. Okay. So that's a pretty big company. But who comes in second here is Jehovah's Witnesses. Basically, they have 9 million salespeople. Everyone who is a Jehovah's Witness is a salesperson for the Watchtower. And they're out, peddling their goods, whether they're out selling the magazines or whether they're out trying to get people on jw.org, trying to promote Jehovah's Witness Watchtower, to get people to send money, leave money, give it through gifts or whatever. So they got all these people that are promoting and working for them. So I say they're the second largest employer in the world. So it really.
Brilliant analogy. That's a brilliant analogy. Also, the product they have is kind of like a bad Walmart T-shirt, because you spend money and you spend time and you bring it home and you wash it and it shrinks and it's not a long-lasting product.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just and yet we all did it on our own dime. Not only that, I mean, we talked about double dipping here on the 6 screens, and we used to go up. I don't know how far you go back, Pixie, but back in the 60s and the 70s, and even the 80s, you'd go up to the magazine counter, and you would have to buy your magazines. Okay, Brother Farron, now it wasn't a lot. It was only like maybe 5 cents a piece or something. It wasn't a lot of money, but still it was a few bucks. All right, Brother Farron, that'll be $3. Okay, so you buy your magazines. Now you take those magazines out in service, and then they gave you this white envelope. They said, now keep this in your pocket. Now you go out there in the territory, and when someone gives you a donation for the magazines, take the money and put it in the white envelope in your pocket, and then bring that to the Kingdom Hall. So they're actually getting paid twice, right? They're getting paid by you going up there to the counter and buying your literature, and then you're going out and collecting it. So they actually got it twice. So, but we never really thought of that. And I'll tell you, I mean, it wasn't that much that you really would get overly bent out of shape about it. But it when I look back now, multiply that by millions of people, Pixie. You're talking some serious money, some serious money. It's unreal what they've done.
I remember when Oprah pointed that out, that if you put dimes in a charity cup, that you look at how many countries and cities, and it adds up. It adds up.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, even in the stock market.
Well, one for you that I learned in a comic book.
Hello?
People say they fight wars for God. You've heard this for 1,000 years.
Hey, Pixie, I got to interrupt you one bit. We'll come back to you. We got a sister coming in. Come on in, sister. You're on with us.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead, sister.
Oh, hi, it's Kim from New Jersey.
Yes, go ahead and speak up, Kim. Speak up. Speak up a little bit, Kim, if you can. I have a hard time hearing you.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, you're not too loud. You're not too loud, Kim. I mean, are you trying to talk in secret? Is someone listening to you, or
Okay, when is the memorial this year?
April 2nd? Did you want to go?
For second? What day is that?
Thursday.
Oh wow. You know, it's gonna be hard for me to make the memorial this year because I've moved away. I don't even live in that area anymore, so I don't know any witnesses in my new area or in Kingdom Hall, and I don't care to know either. So
Yeah.
I doubt though. And that's what I wanted to say. And concerning you were talking about earlier about R-rated movies. Well, let me tell you something about R-rated movies. I knew an elder who used to watch every single R-rated movie that ever came out, and I couldn't believe it. He used to call me like all the time and tell me about he just watching an R-rated movie, just watch this movie. Every single movie that man used to watch used to be R-rated, and he was an elder. So,
Well,
what I want to say.
well, thank you. No, don't be bashful, but that's nice that you wanted to say that. Well, thank you, Kim. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. You have a good one. All right. Let's go back to Pixie. Pixie, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but whenever I see someone trying to sneak in here tonight, I want to bring them in. Go ahead, Pixie. Let's go back to what you're saying. All right. Well, anyways, our show is coming to an end. And hey, we had fun. I had fun tonight. I felt better tonight. Still a little cough, but a lot better than last week. And if anyone has anything to say here before we end the program, we can still get a lot of people coming in here tonight. And I see this every week lately. But go ahead. If you got something to say, we'll give it the last word here. Speak up. You're on 6 screens. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. So let's go with the lady first. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, let's go with you. Yep.
Okay, you're right. Yes.
Oh, Susan. Okay. I
Okay.
didn't recognize your voice. Yeah.
Yes. So we had talked last couple of weeks about whether we would reinstate the hotline for the 6 screens. And I was wondering what you thought about it, or what our listeners mostly, what they would think about it. Do you think there's a necessity for the hotline again for people that are kind of going through a stressful time in their life because of the Watchtower?
Yeah. Well, just to bring people up to speed, Susan, you used to do that when I first met you, even before we got married. We had a 6 screens hotline. And, there's a lot of people that don't want to call into a live program. They don't want to be found out about or whatever feelings they have. But Susan handled that. And people used to call in. We had a hotline number. And Susan got upwards of 8, 10, 12 calls a day some days. That was amazing to me, that people would just talk to Susan, try to ease them through what's going on and try to get them to listen to the 6 screens. You did a good job at that. But, yeah, we'll put the feelers out there, Susan. Would you like to do that again?
Well, we had talked about it. I was kind of interested if the audience had any thinking that that's not necessary in today's world.
Well, let's throw the question out. Let's throw the question out there. In other words, friends, what do you think about a 6 screens hotline again, where you could call up and go ahead.
Susan, there's always going to be a need for it. I used to, back in 2015, 16, I used to advertise the Awake hotline, and my phone number was on YouTube. I'll put it out there. And I always tell the story about, there was a sister who called me, Rick. She was listening to the Australian Royal Commission live in Australia. The lawyer that was lying through his teeth at the commission was her book study conductor. And she called me. She goes, Gilbert, I can't talk to anybody. She needed to talk to somebody, but she couldn't talk to anybody because, she would be outed. And she found my number on YouTube. But the point, I was called the Awake Hotline. But the point is that, there's always a need, but it is a very physically demanding job. So, it has to be like you share but it's just too much for one person. And I would get calls, for a guy from Spain called me in Spanish, and he's like, Gilbert, my wife told me about the Australian Royal Commission, and now he's in a dilemma because she wants to stay a Jehovah's Witness, and he wants to leave. I mean, these are the kind of calls that you get, and where, you have to tell a guy, hey, listen, you might get a divorce, you might not. You're in the middle of a battlefield. You're like in the middle of a war, and this is very. I'm telling you, it takes a physical toll on your body. I do recommend everybody participate and lighten the load. But yeah, Rick, people are leaving every day, and it's like that one lady. She had no one to talk to. She had nowhere to turn. So whoever does it, I know a lot of people do it. God bless you guys. But even if you could forward the phones, for like one weekend, like, hey, you're on, like I'm on call at work right now. So if you had a system where people could, you forward the phones to one person and then you forward the phones to another one, that would be feasible, so you got like 10, 15, 20 people sharing the work.
Yeah, I even thought of like breaking it up regionally, like the West Coast, the Midwest and East Coast, and because it was work. I remember when Susan, when she was doing it, it was ding, 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 and some people would leave you on the phone for hours, and then there'd be the same people calling in all the time, and she had to put restrictions on some people. So it was amazing. It was amazing the amount of people that called in. I couldn't believe it. And then we let it go for a while when Susan wasn't doing real well health wise. So, but it's something we're thinking about starting back up again. But it is a job. It's you have to treat it as a job. Yep.
Yeah, Rick. And if you look into the forwarding system, because if somebody wants to do it and they're vetted right, and you'll get the phone calls over the weekend, and then somebody else would do it, and it's nice when you don't have that whole, like when I did the Awake Hotline, I mean, I would get calls. Look, the guy's calling me from Spain, or she's calling me from Australia on their time. So I would get calls like at 2, 3 in the morning, and I didn't complain because, it was part of my. I was accomplishing my ministry, like Watchtower was saying. But
well, Susan felt that way too, Gilbert. In fact, Susan, you're still on there. Did people call you at inappropriate times, Susan?
Yes.
Susan, did people call you at inappropriate times?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I asked when we got married the weekend. I left messages, especially for my people that were sort of regular callers. I said, please do not call me for these 4 days, or because I'm getting married. But it didn't matter. They called anyway.
Yeah.
On a honeymoon, Susan, right? Yeah. On a honeymoon, they called.
Rick, you have a whole bunch of people listening in that are qualified to take these calls, and they'll be more than happy, like, to take a weekend, to take a few days during the week, and like I say, have a forwarding system, and I mean, them, Rick. You know these people. You've known them for years.
Yeah, in fact, let me put a call out there right now. If you're listening into the 6 screens, and that's something like you'd like to help Susan with, have some calls forwarded to you to answer from, witnesses leaving and need some thoughts from someone, by all means, get a hold of me at jwworldnews@gmail.com and say, Rick, I'd be interested in helping Susan with that. So go ahead.
And maybe Gilbert would like to be one of those people.
Yeah, and also what would actually be very good if you did like with your daughter, come up with a really good 30-second, 60-second video that you play at the beginning or at the end of your show, and just say, hey, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, and you want to talk to somebody, but somebody who's not going to rat you out, someone's just going to listen, who understands, this is the hotline, the 6 Screens hotline, and, call, we're not going to call the elders on you, Yeah, you'd be surprised. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses will take you up on that offer. I know for a fact.
Oh, I think bigger now than ever, especially with YouTube and Facebook, and that's a good idea. Promo it on here, and I mean, if I did that tonight, I think we'd have 10 calls immediately. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, Rick. Well, I hope that helps, and God bless you, Susan, for what you did, your work.
Well, thank you, Joe, for your opinion. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gilbert. All right, let's go out to 720. 720.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hey there, Rick. How you doing tonight?
Oh,
Yeah,
Dan. Good to talk to you, Dan. Yeah, it's good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, the hotline sounds like a good idea. But what I wanted to say tonight, Rick, was you kind of triggered me when you mentioned cliques, because I never really thought I was in a clique, but when you said it, I thought I've been in a clique in the hall, you know, and one of them was, you know, we used to make fun of the pioneers. You know, the wealthy brothers. I wasn't wealthy, but I don't know why, but you know, I kind of hung out with them, and maybe it was because I looked up to them. But they always used to make fun of the pioneers. They liked the pioneers for status, you know, in the hall. But they would literally say, you know, we don't want to dress like that. Oh my God, look at she's wearing rags, and you know, they would be like, oh my God, they're the poorest people. They don't take care of their kid, you know, their families, and you know. So I guess I was in cliques, and that was a pretty big thing in several congregations that I was in Houston. It was very cliquey, and there were even people that were a little higher, even in East Texas. They didn't want us working with blacks. And they were very outspoken about blacks were slower and dumber, and you know, we don't let them have parts in the hall. It was really that, it was just like that, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it, because I wasn't from prejudice. You know, I grew up around Detroit, so I didn't know that existed in the congregation. But anyway, you know, I wanted to bring up one other comment, Rick. I know you got to go. I wanted to bring up about those carts, because I thought about those carts, and I don't know why this hit me the other day. But you know what those carts are? Those little carts where they have the magazines and all that. I used to think, what the hell are those carts? Why are they standing out there like kitty? You know, with these carts and, you know, these old newspaper racks, you know, they look crazy, right? But you know what those carts are? The governing body gave them to them as a teddy bear. They don't have to talk. They don't have to speak about the false prophecies they spew out. They don't have to answer to lies. All they do is stand. And this is what I wanted to say last week about integrity. You and me left because we saw it was BS. Our BS meter went off. Maybe it was a year, 2 years. But eventually we said, this is a bunch of bull. And we chose truth over organization. We chose truth over governing body. We said, you don't mean nothing if you don't stand for truth. And so we left. So I thought, you know, these carts, I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought, they're a go-between between us. They don't have to answer nothing. They can just hide behind them and with a big smile and say, go to jw.org. It's the governing body gave them to them. Like, you know, Rick, you were talking about how scandalous the governing body is, you know, stealing our money, even if it's pennies, even if it's quarters and dollars. They're making billions, you know, doing the money twice, you know, asking for a donation, and then we pay for them and then pay them again. But they're doing the same thing with the Watchtower. They know they don't want those brothers answering. They don't want us saying, what do you mean you get to wear pants now? What do you mean you get to wear a beard? What do you mean you get to, what are you talking about? You're 60 years old. They're telling you how to dress. Because, am I talking too much, Rick?
No, you're not talking enough.
Because you know, when I met those brothers down in Colorado Springs, and I thought they were like shunning me. I thought, you know, these guys are, we love you, Dan. Where have you been? Come to the Kingdom Hall and all this. And so I mentioned Stephen Ledden, you know, Tony Morris, and I thought they were giving me the shun, but what they were was ashamed of themselves. They were ashamed of themselves because I asked them to think a little bit. I asked them to just reason a little bit with me. It wasn't like I was calling them out or being Mr. Apostate. I was just saying, what do you think about this? You know, and they shut down and they looked down, and I kind of took it personal, and I kind of got hurt. I was like, wow, What a bunch of bull. These guys told me they love me. Now they're throwing me away because I asked them a couple questions. And you can say, yeah, oh, they're brainwashed, it's this and that. It's beyond that. It's beyond that. It's like you've sold your soul for a lie. Like I said, you know, we used to preach. We used to go door to door, and we used our Bible, and we opened our Bible, and we didn't go to the door unless we had our Bible. But that cart, Rick, governing body gave them that cart as a buffer. They need not say nothing. They can stand behind the lies they spewed, because people are lying now. They know. They know there's pedophilia. They know, you know the scripture in Hebrew that says, "Don't forsake the gathering of ourselves," but all the more so as you behold the day drawing near. And now they say, "Aren't you glad we don't have to make the meetings?" It's like, you get what I'm saying, Rick?
Oh, yeah, I do. No, it's sensible. Very sensible.
Yeah, so I sit back and I think, so I took it personally the other day. Yeah, you know, I was like, man, that was really bad and blah, blah, blah. But then I thought, no, they're ashamed. And you know what, Rick? A little pressure is good. You could say, oh, Dan, you don't love them. You don't, they're brainwashed. No, a little tension is good. A little bit of reasoning is good. You throw a little curveball at them, get them to think a little bit. And then I realized that was a good thing I did, because they turned away. They had to look at themselves in the mirror. See, if you go there and say, what happened in 75? What happened to generation prophecy? What happened in the, generation after generation prophecy? They don't want to answer, and the governing body don't want to answer, because it was the biggest mystery of all. Why in the hell are they standing behind a paper cart, a newspaper rack that they stood behind in the 50s? Because they don't have to say nothing. They gave them a free ride. You got a free ride right into paradise. You need to do nothing. Just go out there in the parks and say jw.org. And I was kind of offended, but now I see the psychology behind the psychopaths that run the organization, that run these poor people, and keep these people in fear. It's the only thing keeping them in is fear. But anyway, it was an interesting thought. What do you think about it? You think?
Well, no, I think you are right. You got me thinking on that. I mean, the Watchtower does nothing on the wing. They carefully analyze everything, Dan, even with those carts. That was a good thought you had. They put the people in front of that little cart. They don't have to say a thing. They feel like they're doing something for God, for the organization. And, they might get a straggler here or there that listens a little bit or gets them on jw.org. But other than that, it's a complete waste of time. But it gives the witnesses something to hide behind. It really does. And
you know something, Rick? You don't have to live like that. You don't have to live a lie. And I know they're brainwashed to some degree. But some degree, no, you're in denial. And denial is not healthy. Denial in Alcoholics Anonymous, denial in alcoholism is a sickness. Denial is a sickness. And so to be in governing body and to lie for them and to continue to lie for them and to continue to false prophecy and to continue to do this, you're in denial and you're actually getting sicker. Denial is a sickness. And so they don't have to live in that sickness. They don't have to live in that garbage and that false prophecy and waiting for a new world and throwing their whole lives away. Like you said, Rick, I'll tell you something. I was listening to somebody today, and I kind of felt sick. I should know, but they kind of made me sick. They were very wealthy, and the lady says, "Oh, I was on 72 cruises," and I was 72 cruises. My God, she was all dressed up really nice. We had a little event. And then another guy's like, yeah, I'm selling my home. I said, oh, you selling your home? He said, well, my other home. And I said, oh. He said, yeah, I got a home. It's $600,000. I'm selling it. And I'm thinking, how much, like he said, did we lose? Not only the money we gave, but I mean, in time. And maybe we would have invested in another home if we thought the world was going to go on. Something to leave for our kids. And now here we are just, making it, but I was like, wow, they have a house. They're going to give to their kids 2 houses. They're going to sell it and then give their kids 2 rentals. And, and I felt like I was behind. I was like, man, Watchtower really put me behind. I was really like, my God, my parents died broke. And, I spent 40 years trying to catch back up. And I was like, my God. Yeah, like you say, Rick, we've lost a lot. We don't realize I'm not being a victim. I'm just saying, man, did we lose a lot. Education, how so many things run, being under mind control. My God, Rick.
Oh, Dan, I tell you, no, I mean, even as you talk here, you bring up memories here. All the wasted time going out door to door, 2, 3, 4 hours a day some days, sometimes 5. And talking about a message is now even obsolete in telling people the Armageddon's coming. Now it's not even going to come in our lifetime. So this was, look at all that wasted time, all that foolishness. And we could have put it to good work. Not that we all would have become multi-millionaires or anything, but for goodness sakes, it would be a lot more comfortable for so many people. I look back now, and I mean, as a young person raising 5 children, I struggled, like most Jehovah's Witnesses did, and struggled just to get to the meetings. And if you couldn't get there, that you were looked upon as being weak. And boy, when I look back now and see the extra income I could have made by working, I always was in business for myself, but the extra income I could have made by staying out longer and doing more business, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I just can't believe it. I just, like you said, Rick, what if they had told us back then, I want you all to know the end's not going to come in our time. I mean, it isn't like we were just living. Yeah, I guess we were living for the end because that's what they told us to do. Live for the end so you can get in paradise. But if they had said, if they didn't have the carrot when we were in there, paradise tomorrow, nobody would be there.
We would have all pulled the ripcord. We would have been out of here. Boom.
You're doing okay, Dan. You and I aren't living in our cars. We're doing okay.
You're right. But you know what I mean. But Rick, like Rick said, you'd pull the ripcord. You'd say, it's time to bail out. This ship's going down. But we'd say, hey, we need to get on with our life. We need to, get things going again. And let's be a little more balanced. Maybe, hey, brothers, I don't think I'm going to pioneer this month. I think, I know it's a memorial, but, I'm going to make some extra money, work a Saturday. Because, probably like a lot of people on here, I've quit so many Saturday jobs. I had so many jobs, and people are like, are you kidding me? What do you mean you don't work Saturday? I said, well, I go out door to door. And I quit so many good jobs, because I had to work Saturday. But it's a disgrace that all I did for myself before I left was ask them, did we pass a prophecy? I was reading no apostate literature. All I did was say, are we like passing up a prophecy? And it was the generation prophecy of 70, 80 years. And they put me on apostate watch. And they showed me the paperwork. They reported me to Brooklyn. And I was like, right then was like, you can't ask these guys a question, like a for real question. I mean, I'm a real preacher. I'm preaching the generation prophecy, and they put me on apostate watch. So anyway, it just floored me. The best thing that happened to me, now I got to say that, the best thing that happened to me, like Rick always says, they disfellowshipped them, Satan disfellowshipped them. But, I want to say one last thing, the Kingdom Hall. And I thought this, I got to put it in the most grotesque terms that I can put it in. But Jehovah's Witnesses promote pagan religion because they call everything outside of the organization pagan and the world empire false religion, Babylon the Great. Jehovah's Witnesses promote Babylon the Great. I wanted to say the F word, but I didn't, Rick. Jehovah's Witnesses promote Babylon the Great, paganism, churches. They put people right into business. They take those kingdom halls that we built with our sweat and blood, and those are things that burn me inside. Those halls we worked all night, had the meeting the next day, dedicated the building to Jehovah. How on earth did those slime dogs, those people, governing body, how did they talk those people into signing all those whatever they're called, over to them, the titles? How did they do that? And then how did they talk them into selling them to pagan worship? Now, we would want to go into one of those churches for a wedding, for a marriage, for a son. Maybe he was in a different religion, but we couldn't even go in for that. But I got to say, I don't know how to say it, but I want to say it so strong. They promote pagan worship and don't even care because they're so greedy for money. So greedy for the dollar bill. And I'm just like so floored because, you know, now that we're outside of it, we go, what the hell was I in? They used us, like Rick said, the biggest slavery, mind control, slavery, salesmen. We were nothing, but we're pretty good salesmen. You know, we were taught how to sell, reasoning from the scriptures. Anyway, that's it, Rick.
Well, Dan, I mean, that's good. That's very, very good. But always love to hear from you, Dan. I mean, you know, you're
Thank you.
well, you're a committed man, and you really have a story to tell. You've been through this. You family members that have really get messed up big time in your life. You have a real story to tell. You and Angela. It's always so good to have you come on here. Thank you for doing that, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Still in there. My brother's still in there. My oldest, and I feel sorry for him. He's still very dedicated. He still has no use for me. I mean, you know, I've talked to him, make him talk to me, but he's totally 100% thoroughly brainwashed, and it still hurts. So I guess you know, like somebody said, we're still damaged. You know.
Well, it's
So,
like it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart.
Yeah.
It does, Dan. Well, we pray for you. You're a good man, Dan. We love you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, tell Rich and Connie I said hi too. I watched them tonight.
Well, they're probably on here still. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm sure
Yeah,
that
they're doing a good job. They're doing a great job.
yeah, they're doing good. Thank you. All right. Well, there you go. Well, that's Dan Clark. We always love to hear from Dan. Well, anyways, we come to the end of the program. We had a good time. I had a good time. I feel better tonight. And there'll be no 6-screen Sunday tomorrow. It'll be next Sunday. But we'll be back in action with our Sunday programming next Sunday. And I want to thank you all for coming in tonight. And you made my night. You really did. And I want you to keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. In the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please, as we say, turn off the new light. Now, we've got the after hours program. We leave the telephone lines open. Just kind of behave in there. What you want to do is so that it's not a bunch of, scrambled up words and talking over each other. Make sure when you talk, you hit *6. And then when you're not talking, either hold your hand over the telephone receiver or at least mute yourself by hitting *6 again. *6 to speak up, *6 to mute yourself. But we there's a good time. A lot of people listen in. So it's not on the air. It's not being recorded. So you can talk whatever you want to talk about. It's not going to go anywhere. So by all means, if you'd like to do that, just stay on the telephone line. And if you don't speak up, just listen to what they have to say. And give everyone a chance to talk and say different things. And even kind of like ask if there's anyone on there that has something to say. Kind of like run the program, all of you guys. So thank you for being with us tonight and spending some time with us. I know it's kind of interesting for many people, like a giant therapy session. And I'm glad it's helping a lot of people. I really, really am. Every single person that has left the Watchtower has something to say about it. And this is where they come to talk every Saturday night. And we're very happy they do that. So thank you all. And I'll see you next Saturday night, beginning at 6 o'clock with Anne Marie. She'll be coming in from Northern California. Thank you very much, everyone.